Okay, no additions, so that, do I have a mover for the agenda? Rock? And Trevor, seconding? All in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any. Okay, we'll move it to 4.1, minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held December 7th. Do I have a mover to accept them as printed and circulated? Councillor Hallahan and Deputy Reeve Campbell. All in favor? Carried. 4.2, that the regular council meeting held December 7th as printed and circulated. Jim and Trevor. All in favor? Carried. Deputations. It looks like William Town Hall Theater, and Doug is heading it up.
Okay, so I'm speaking on behalf of the Wingham Town Hall Committee Theater. We were appointed as a committee of council how long ago? Last year sometime. And our goal was to get the Wingham Town Hall Theater opened again. And our goal was to do that without costing the taxpayers anything. We want to do it with private donations and fundraising. So we've gone out and done our work, and my report here is just to show you where we've come. So this is, oops, here, I'll back up. So TD Bank gave us a check for $10,000. Then I've got a slideshow running, so I got to keep on stopping it. This is the Trillium Roots Fund. And so Trillium Roots gave us a check for $5,000. Almost Famous Players, check for $2,000. Royal Homes, a check for $10,000. That plaque in the foreground is the plaque that will be hung up in the theater. Each of the 10,000 donors will receive a plaque like that. That's 3 feet by 3 feet. And just this past week, Maitland Family Dental gave us a check, actually a check and a pledge for a total of $10,000. That slide right there is showing our, I'm sorry, this thing's running away on me, spotlight on our donors. And so that's actually a feature that will recognize donors of 1,000 for a gold star and 500 for, and it could be an individual or a business. And then finally, we just have some shots to remind you of the fine theater that we have upstairs with seating of just over 400. Start that slideshow. And then just a report really on the numbers. And so revenues that we've raised so far is Homecoming 2014 kicked things off with a donation of $4,000 towards the Wingham Town Hall Theater. TD Bank has mentioned $10,000. Trillium Mutual Insurance, not to be confused with the Ontario Trillium Fund, which is the lottery. This is the Trillium Mutual Insurance for $5,000. Almost Famous Players for $2,000. Fox and Fuels, that was one that we haven't done the photo op on that one yet, but they have already given us a check for $10,000. And Royal Homes for $10,000. Maitland Family Dental, we received $5,000, and $5,000 is pledged for next year, whenever we need it. And Medill Arts, this one hasn't gotten through to Donna yet, but Medill Arts did a Christmas music concert, and they raised $585, so they get a silver star. And then there is a faith fundraising concert, January 31st. Thomas Beard is stepping forward, and we hope to hear from him and others, and Phil Main and the Ballas. And that's just a question mark, but that is a planned fundraiser that we want the press to catch on. So, and so it should be a good time, and it's going to be held at the Maitland River Community Church. And so probably selling tickets and receiving donations there. We'll do a plug for people that want, people or individual or businesses that want to pledge for a star, be it individual or like a gold or a silver star. And we really haven't gone far yet with the after the businesses. So we know that there's more businesses that we have that we can approach for the $10,000 or the $5,000 plaque. It's the same plaque that you saw, the Royal Homes plaque, but it's just silver, and the gold plaques are meant to go on that side of the theater. When you walk in the door, you'll see those. You have to walk in a little further and see the ones on this wall, which will be the silver ones. So so we have raised $51,985, just short of $52,000 so far this year, and I think that deserves applause. What do you think? We probably surprised ourselves on that too. So, the unfortunate thing was we did apply for interior funding, and we applied for a $60,000 grant, and we were turned down on that. So we have now to raise that balance. And we're confident that the community and the businesses will step up to that. We haven't really gone to the public aggressively yet. Okay, so and then our expenses right here. Integrated engineering, mechanical engineering, they did some work on design for the HVAC system. What would be required? DM Ross, structural engineering, that was just to look in the roof structure for supporting the HVAC units on the roof. And then Rochester Rigging, Mark Breckenridge, and Marx Brothers Auto Body for that. Those two together were for that plaque for the Royal Homes plaque. We won't be making any more plaques until we've got all the donors in, and then we'll just then we can probably get a little better price and get it done all at once. So our total expense is close to $4,000. We have sitting just about, not, Donna doesn't have all the money yet, but $48,000 is what we have available. The committee, the original reason for shutting the theater was the fire prevention officer report that said, hey, you've got a fire risk upstairs. If there's a fire happen, well, everybody's in the theater, we could have a problem. And the report was made with various recommendations of work that needed to be done. The estimate of getting that work done, depending on, it's still in the air as to specifically how that gets done, so we can't really get into the specifics of what will be done, but whatever is done will meet the fire prevention officer and our building inspector's requirements. And we believe that that budget is going to be within the $40,000 range. It depends whether it goes to a sprinkler system or, there's various options, fire doors, no fire doors. Those discussions are undergoing, and but we have sufficient money in the kitty to complete the work this winter. And so we, as a committee, would like to, we feel we're on a roll, and we want to keep the ball rolling. And so then we would like to open the theater this spring, proceed with the work for the fire prevention. We would then continue fundraising through 2016 and raise the rest for the HVAC system, and then be able to proceed with that in those winter months next year. Winter, spring, we'll see. But if we raise the funds earlier, we could look at doing it sooner, but we're giving ourselves lots of time. And so that is the report from the Wingham Town Hall Theater. Any questions, or is that?
Is there any questions? I think it was straightforward and complete. So,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Sure.
There is a report later in the agenda. You will see that addresses this request.
If there's no questions, we'll go to 5.2. Looks like Gil's first one up for leading off. Blind Festival 2016 season and joint marketing plan.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Our 2015 report and our 2016 cooperative marketing plan. Go ahead. So I realize a lot of this will be a repeat for a lot of you. I've heard this before, but I'll share it with you anyway. So what makes the Blind Festival so unique? The repertory schedule, new play development, I can't emphasize that enough, and we'll talk about that more when we get into the new plays for next year. I think it sometimes gets forgotten that the plays that we do at Blythe, one of the things that makes us so relevant is that the work that we're doing these plays are new. So we're not drawing from an existing canon of work from across the country. We're not drawing from work from across the world. We're creating work here. We're creating plays here that are of and for this community. And a lot of them are obviously rife with rural concerns. The community involvement, this is a huge thing. We'll get into lots of detail. I know that we've circulated this as well. And support of the artist, this is an interesting question for me too. What that means, the place of the artist in our community, and what role do the arts play in our community. I think we're continually rediscovering and reinventing what that is. Go ahead, move forward, Deb. So, in a village of 1,000 people, we have an art gallery, we have an orchestra, we have the choir, the singers, and there's also our nationally renowned theater company. I can tell you too, there's a publishing house called Sirocco Drama. So there's 2 publishing houses in all of Canada that print plays every year. And this year, Sirocco Drama, of the 6 plays that they published this year, 3 of them premiered in Blythe in the last 2 years. No other theater company in the country can lay that kind of claim. So we commission our work, we develop it in-house. The dramaturgy is us actually developing and growing those pieces within the house. We also workshop the work, and we have playwrights in residence. So we have right now a playwright in residence who's working with us full-time, developing a play, actually a very funny play for next year. And that's Mark Crawford. So 125 world premieres in 41 seasons, which, to put that in context, so we do about 4 shows a year. So 125 world premieres in 41 seasons means that we've done essentially 3 new plays every year since we started, which is pretty incredible. So over $20,000 in revenue to country supper groups. So that includes a lot of the churches, also the Legion in town. Ticket donations to more than 160 local charities and community groups annually valued at over $25,000. So just to emphasize what that is, so though the Blythe Festival itself is a charity, the Blythe Center for the Arts is a charity, we give in turn to other charities. So we often will donate tickets to different church raffles and things. We also like kids hockey teams, all kinds of different events, and we will end up giving usually what ends up being valued at about $25,000 to $30,000 a year. We're continually giving out to the community. $33,000 in rent to local landlords. That's an average. So because we bring in anywhere from 60 to 100 people every summer to come and work at the theater, so we have to house them somewhere. And then we've been deeply involved, of course, as you're all intimately aware, in the capital fundraising for Blythe Memorial Hall. Moving along, education. This part is actually really quite dear to my heart. I've worked with the Blythe Festival Young Company, was really where I started with the theater. So I spent many years working with teenagers who were coming and working with us. So Blythe right now offers, our young company is actually 6 weeks long. It's for a group of local teenagers. They come out, they just tell us they want to do it. There's no further application process than that. And they get to come out and they get to work for 6 weeks with a professional director to create and develop their own work. And it's an amazing, amazing opportunity. And they create beautiful, funny, ridiculous, outrageous work. And this past year, I was actually really thrilled because for the first time ever, we were able to welcome back a young man who had himself been a member of the Young Company, who came back and has gone off and had a career and got his education, and now he's back and was able to direct the Young Company. So that was a really big success story for us. But that was Jeffrey Armour. So our season review, then this is the I'd love to say it's the nuts and bolts, but it's mostly just the nuts. National press coverage. So for the first time in about 10 years, we had the Globe and Mail came and reviewed a show at the theater, which was really a great boon for us. It's been a long time since we've attracted national attention in that same way, so it was really exciting. We had over 1,000 new patrons. So this is a really important number to me, because I think sometimes we forget that actually the theater is constantly growing. So audiences turn over, audiences change, but we attracted 1,000 new patrons. So 1,000 people who had never bought tickets at the theater before bought them there this year. And to me, that's hugely important. We have to be constantly bringing in new people. Our patch revenues increased by 17%, so that's people who are actually buying tickets to everything, which is a really interesting number for us also, that we had an increase that large in people who were saying, I want to see everything that you're doing. And we had a 6% increase in patrons coming from more than 2 hours away. So again, drawing from further and further afield. So that's really exciting. Now, on top of that, though it's not on this slide, we did finish the year adding to our deficit. So we've been, we are a not-for-profit. We've been running a deficit. That's part of what not-for-profits do. It's nowhere near 10% of our operating, but we do continue to carry it. So that's part of what Deb mostly has to deal with. Let's move along. So the 2015 season, I don't know if any of you got to see any of these shows. Seeds was a big success. The Wilberforce Hotel was actually the best-selling show of the season last year, which was a hugely interesting thing. I think it was actually in many ways a very difficult piece of theater to watch, but it sold twice as many tickets as Fury and Mary's Wedding, so that was a really exciting thing. And I think one of the big takeaways for me about the success of the Wilberforce Hotel was actually that it was very much a story about our place in the world. It's very much, I had a lot of people calling and saying, I've driven past the Wilberforce Hotel, I want to see that show. We also had, I don't know if any of you got to see it, but Ronnie Burkett came and performed in our Phillips studio in the garage space. And Ronnie is an internationally celebrated puppeteer. He actually, he played in Blythe to a 90-seat theater, and at the end of the week, packed up his stuff and went and played the Baryshnikov Center in Manhattan. So it gives you a sense of the scope of his career, and immediately then went for 3 months to New Zealand. So he's a huge success, and the show sold out in Blythe, and he was brilliant. Our 2015 special events. So we run events actually all throughout the year at the theater. So some of the amazing ones that we had last year included, we brought back Wingfield's Inferno. We have a long relationship with those guys. They do brilliant stuff. And those are just an array of some of the different things we have. So joint use of Blythe Memorial Hall. So the shoulder season usage, so this is like all of the rentals that are going through the theater, which is part of what we administer on behalf of North Huron as well, was just under $12,000, and it was actually down 30% from where it had been. And really the reason is because of the scheduling for the renovation of the hall. We did think that the hall was going to be closed, and so we were taking fewer rentals than we had the previous year. I can tell you we're doing the same thing this year too, in anticipation of now closing the hall in 2016. So that's part of the reality of what will have to be the renovation, right? Is that part of our revenue comes in that off-season time. And so we need to be able to be flexible with the space that way. But we contributed over $25,000 to the operating expense of Memorial Hall, and we put in about $2,000 in theater equipment improvements in 2015. So we need to constantly be improving what's there, just to stay behind the curve of the technology. Now, more excitingly, the 2016 42nd season. Go ahead, Deb. So we're opening a week early to accommodate the renovation, but we're going to have 4 world premieres. We're adding Sunday performances, which I think is really exciting. It's something that we haven't had ever before. There'll be 85 performances. The Young Company is going to happen again. And our Bonanza weekend, 4 plays in 3 days, will be August 5th to 7th. You can mark that right in your calendar right now if you want to. Ha 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 ha. Our Beautiful Sons, remembering Matthew Denning. So this is the first show of the 2016 season. I'm hugely proud of it. It's something that we've been working on for a long time. Christopher Morris was a young actor who performed in, I think, his first season with us in 2000. And he had been writing a piece, actually, about the war in Afghanistan, had actually gone himself to Pakistan and to Afghanistan, researching that piece, and he came across Matthew's story while he was over there and came back and said, I want to work on this piece here, I want to learn more about this story here. And so we are going to be presenting this piece. Lincoln and Lori have been incredibly supportive throughout the entire development of it. Yeah, it's a really special, beautiful play. For those of you who don't know the story, so Matthew, at 23 years old, was the youngest member of the military police in Afghanistan, working for the Canadian Forces, and he was killed, only 23 years old. And the very next year, his younger brother volunteered for active service in Afghanistan. And the Canadian Forces actually called Lincoln and Rory and asked them for direction. What do we do in this situation? Right? We know what you have sacrificed as a family. What are you going to? Well, how do we step forward? And they were faced with this enormous decision. And that really is the substance of the play. Is about this family trying to understand where they want to be, how they can survive, what it means to raise boys into men, what it means to love your family, what it means to be a mother, to be a father. It's a beautiful, exciting play. And again, it's a play that is about this place, that is born of this place, that has been written here and created here for this audience. And Lincoln already tried to book 100 tickets for every night. The next page, Birds and the Bees. This is a very funny play. It's being written by Mark Crawford, who is our playwright in residence. It would be safe to say this is a slap-down Dragonet comedy. It's about a mother who is a divorcee, whose daughter moves home. Her daughter has left her husband. Her and her husband have been working a turkey farm for the last 20 years, and the daughter's found that just artificially inseminating turkeys all day has killed her love life. And they end up welcoming a young, strapping, very energetic grad student to come and study the migratory patterns of the bees on their farm. And he shows up and happens to be a virgin, and he spends the weekend at their house. So that's the Birds and the Bees. It's very funny. If truth be told, so this is a play by Beverly Cooper, who wrote Innocence Lost, which was the Stephen Truscott piece that we did a number of years ago. And I think that this one will be equally resonant with the local community. So Bev Cooper's piece is about a woman who is a writer, who has received awards all over the world, all over the country, including the Governor General's Award. And she moves back to her old hometown only to discover that there's people in her town who want the books to be banned and not to be read in the local high school. I have no idea who this play is actually about. Yeah, it's definitely not about Alex Monroe. Moving right along. Last Donnelly Standing. So this play is being created by myself and Paul Thompson, who's created The Outdoor Donnellys, Death of a Hired Man, a lot of really important plays here with us. He was also, of course, instrumental in creating the original Farm Show. So this is a piece about Robert Donnelly, who was actually the second youngest of the Donnelly brothers. And he was the only one who ever did hard time. He was sentenced to 2 years of hard time in Kingston Penitentiary. And about a month after he got out of prison, the massacre happened and his family were burned to the ground. And amazingly, as everybody else in the family moved away, Robert actually moved into town and actually bought a house on the main street. And apparently he used to pace his porch up and down right there in the community, and actually later opened a bar right on the main street. So you can imagine the impact of that. So that's that piece. Some of our special events for next year, which we've been lining up, include another Wingfield piece, Letter from Wingfield Farm. We're bringing in the Polka Dogs, who are an amazing band based in Toronto, run by a man named John Millard. And they're going to sing the Hank Williams songbook. So they've got just about everything that Hank Williams ever wrote. They have tightened into their belt, and they do amazing, amazing work. We're going to do our book sale. I also know that the headlining opening night act of the Alex Monroe Festival is actually going to happen during the book sale as well. So I can't tell you yet who's going to be coming to read for that, but I know it's going to be somebody, a major celebrity that I'm not allowed to tell anybody, but you know, don't you? Bonanza Weekend, I told you, and the Fighting 61st. This is another piece that we're going to be doing next year, which is actually about the 161st Battalion, the formation of the 161st Battalion. So we're creating, again, an outdoor piece, a big, huge, epic outdoor piece. We're going to be involved. We've been getting involved with the 161st Battalion um, the historical group that have been meeting and trying to create events to celebrate the anniversary. So we are going to be staging this piece at that time. Moving along. So this tourist information booth, which you know we administer on behalf of the township. So we had steady traffic, and we had a really great and positive, constant attention and time there too. We had a great group of young people working in the box office this year. We were well trained, and we had a lot of success at the brochure swaps as well. So it was well stocked and well attended. The cooperative marketing plan. So the brass tacks. So it will be continuing to provide North Huron the back 4 pages of our brochure, which is directly mailed to 15,000 households. And there are further 15,000 that are distributed throughout Southwestern Ontario. Again, we'll help to create the ad for the back pages. Last year we did it along with Connie. We were able to create the ads for the back pages. We will also be promoting Blythe and North Huron as a destination through attendance at selected trade shows. So we're constantly promoting the theater season at trade shows all over, as far afield as well, Toronto, as well as Kitchener and London, and really anywhere that we can. So, and we've also had a steady presence this year at the Stratford kiosk, the tourism booth in Stratford. They were calling us, they called us several times throughout the year because they kept running out of brochures. So, and the North Huron packages. So we want to create, and this is something that we're also attempting to do for us, for the theater as well, is to try and generate more experience-based packages with other, to encourage theater visitors to stay and play in North Huron. So this is us attempting to pair with some local hotels and B&Bs as well as restaurants, and trying to create more and more value-added packages that will help to promote everybody. So North Huron's Economic Development Department can also utilize the marketing design components, which we have, which is just to say again what we did last year with Connie to develop those. So those are all the details that we've talked before. So the 30,000 copies with 15,000 directly mailed. And the first, a new thing, we're going to 15,000 rack cards. So this is so that we can get even wider distribution. We're going to put in another 15,000 rack cards. They won't be full brochures, it'll just be a card, but it'll, again, will direct traffic to the websites. This will be additional marketing from what we've had before. I can also tell you that our new, the 2016 season image is also a Wingham painter, Greg Sherwood. There's actually quite a significant Wingham presence in the Blythe season this year. And then, yeah, all of that you already know. I can also tell you that we have just approved a 5-year strategic plan for the theater, which I'd love to come back at some other time and talk to you about as well, which will give you a sense of where we're going into the future and how North Huron is intimately involved in that. Some people who came to the ECDev symposium got a sneak peek of that. And those are really what North Huron gets for its investment. So for $12,500, 4 pages, including the back cover of the season brochure, with what ends up being 30,000 copies, again, 15,000 directly mailed, plus the digital profile, which I can't emphasize enough. There's our website traffic just continues to grow and grow and grow. I mean, as of course those demographics change and as everybody starts to carry smartphones in their pockets, the website is becoming increasingly the main marketing tool of the company. So there'll also be the half-page ad in the 2016 house program, and then we'll continue to do selected marketing and purposes. Go ahead, Deb. Also, the opportunity to host staff and other citizens, municipalities at the designated performances, like we did the municipal night last year, which was a huge success. I know it was a lot of fun. On top of that, too, acknowledgement of the media releases and media kits, and on our theater signage. We've also got the logo placement, of course, which we continue to feature prominently all throughout our materials, and our lobby signage. So, thank you for your continued support. Any questions? No questions. Huh?
No questions?
Okay.
Must have answered all the questions,
Well, thank you.
presentations.
I'd just like to make a comment if I could.
Please, Sharon.
Connie sends her apologies this evening. She came down with the flu and decided to keep that to herself instead of sharing. But we have two groups in the audience as delegations tonight who have partnered with the municipality to move projects forward, and I just wanted to recognize that. With the Town Hall Theatre Group, they worked to put forward a Trillium application, which is a lot of work, and unfortunately it wasn't successful, but they are successfully raising funds. And I wanted to acknowledge the work that both Deb and Gil put into the Cultural Spaces application. It was a significant amount of work, and we couldn't have done it without you. The application is about that thick, and we hope that it will be successful, but even so, the work that you put into that is greatly appreciated. And I recognize that.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Reeves report. I was one of a small number of the ones that are in the room now, able to enjoy the concert put on in live last Wednesday night. I would say it rivaled the show, the show in Vegas that I was at last March. The instrumentals, Annie Sparling's vocals were tremendous, and it was really appreciated knowing that we have that kind of talent in the community. And that also the Wingham Community Christmas dinner that a number of people help out with was held Saturday with a little over 250 people participating, and that was well received. I know that Trevor was there welcoming people in the first part of it, and then I was. Thanks to the community that does these things and makes these things available, it makes for a far stronger community. County council wise, I don't really think that I have much to add. I will be on a 5-person committee doing oversight on county financials, so that I think that's about the biggest thing for me anyway. And moving on to the clerk's department, no report. Okay, move to 6.4, financial department. Bills and accounts. Any questions? Okay. You're making the motion, first, move by Dean. Seconder, Trevor. No questions? All in favor? Carried. And 6.4.2 is the department report to be received for information purposes. Brock and Yolanda. All in favor? Carried. 6.4.3, the 2016 BFL insurance renewal. And that, if there's any questions. Moving or
Yes,
question?
Moving. I would move the approval, including the suggestion that we go to tender on the next year's bid.
Seconder, Trevor? All in favor? Carried. 6.4.4, the draft consolidated fee bylaw. That council has it in the bylaws for in January. Do I have a mover? Bill?
I'd like to make a motion that we actually defer approving this to the January meeting if we can, because I'd like to take a little more look at it than what I've had a chance to.
Yeah,
Sure.
we do have it just on the agenda for your information, and it can be brought forward at the January meeting. So we just wanted, because it is a big bylaw, wanted you to have the opportunity to review
That's
it.
I'll make the motion.
Brock seconds. All in favor?
So could I just add to that, as you're working your way through that bylaw, we've summarized all the changes for you and made note where there is no changes. And so we were trying to make it as simple for you as possible. So yes, it is a big bylaw. And so, and it is not in bylaw form, of course, is because we've made notations to bring your attention quickly to where the changes were, what the prices were before, and all of that type of thing. So this bylaw is not in a passable form at this time, and that was the plan, is to bring it forward for the next meeting. So please, in between now and that time, if you have some specific questions, please contact myself or the department head that whose area is referencing your question, and then we can get them answered for you or get you further information, as I said, because there's a lot of information in here. So, thank you.
Okay, 6.4.5, the frozen water draft interim policy. Trevor?
I'd like to ask a question for you.
Okay, yeah.
My question is, so I just want to be clear on how the process, so if a ratepayer gets notice to turn their taps on, and they choose not to, it's their fee, their costs. If they get a notice and there's an issue from the road to their property, it's a township, from their from the road to inside, it's still their problem. But if they don't get notification, so let's just say, obviously based on your bylaw and your document, there's been history. If there is a place outside the history that doesn't get notification via a letter, what's the issue? Like, so if they have a frozen pipe, what's the concern? Like, what's the process there? Because you're only talking about people who are actually getting notice. So if I'm a ratepayer and I don't get notice and something happens, what's the there's going to be some questions going to be asked on who's liable, who's got what going on.
We'd have to look at those on a case-by-case basis, but often the problem is it's very difficult to determine where the problem is. So, obviously our staff is gonna go and work with that person to try to get their water service back. Are you asking who would be responsible for the cost?
Well, my question is more about, it seems like there's a lot about the notification. If somebody gets notification and they choose not to ignore it, then they're at risk. They're at risk financially. But it doesn't say anything about in there if they don't get notification. So a ratepayer that doesn't get notification because they're not in the history, where their pipes have not been a problem in the past, if they don't get notice, where's the financial liability stop and start with that ratepayer? That's the concern I have.
Yeah, if they haven't been requested to run their water, and Donnie, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, then we would respond to that and cover the costs, I believe, because they have not received notification. So in this case, the policy is meant to address problem areas that we've identified, where we know perhaps we have shallow pipes and we have a freezing problem. If something occurs outside of that, we would respond to it. Really, the idea of the notification is to get those people running the water. If they choose not to, then we're going to have to, they're gonna have to cover those costs.
Bill,
What provision have you made in here if I'm in Florida for 3 weeks and you send me a letter and I don't see it till I come home and my pipes freeze after a week? Now what are you gonna do? How are you gonna deal with that?
I guess if you're going to Florida and you don't turn your water off, I mean, we should provide some sort of communication to owners to advise them that this is an issue if they're in the problem area. Perhaps some communication up front in the winter to let them know that they're gonna have someone watching their house a bit, so.
You're gonna have to take a real serious look at that because I think my insurance company may have issues if I leave my house and I leave the water running. So I think you're gonna have to take a really close look at that part of it.
Mhm. Yeah, we may have to have some communication. You raise a good point. We'd have to have some advanced communication with the people within those problem areas regarding what would happen, if they plan to be away.
Perhaps you could email everyone in those areas initially at the beginning of the year and explain to them what's going to happen here and request at that time that they advise us if they're going to be leaving their property unattended or whatever for any extended period of time, and what further arrangements they've made, or if we can have an alternative notification.
If they are leaving for an extended period of time, they may, like the entire winter, they may shut their water off. So I think that's a good point that you raised, that we may have to do some public education on that and speak to those owners within the affected area.
anything further? We have a mover for this item. Trevor?
I'll move with the note, with the inclination that the notes have been taken and follow-up will be done with those.
Yep. And Brock seconds. Okay, any further questions? All,
So, sorry, the only other question I had was, so did this, correct me, because I've read a lot today, so did this policy in turn affect how we bill them?
That's the whole point of the policy.
Right, but it didn't actually specify, it's actually specified how exactly we are, it's only in those trouble areas that get affected then, right? Is that with the notification, that's what triggers the change in billing?
Right. And
So
that's,
if I'm a ratepayer that don't get notificated, then I'm paying no matter what the usage I use. It's not adjusted. Okay, good.
all in favor? Carried. 6.5.1, Town Hall Theater renovation project. I think that's what a big part of the gallery is waiting on, right? You'll move it. Bill seconding. Any questions?
I won't be voting on it, 'cause I'm not.
Okay.
I think we should clarify with council that the recommendation going forward this evening is to proceed with phase 1 and 2 of the project, and that is what council originally agreed to in your terms of reference with the committee. I believe what the ask was this evening is that the committee wants to open the theater in advance of fundraising to phase 2. So I want you to be aware that the recommendation that is contained in this report is different than what the committee here is asking of you this evening.
favor? Carried. And 6.5.2, the Wayham Trailer Park License Agreement Renewal with Wayham Legion. Do I have a mover? James? Ray seconding? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.6.1, the drainage report for the Jackson Drain. understanding. And does everybody understand that? Brock moves. Yolanda seconds. All in favor? Carried. Okay. And in new business, 8.1.1, Clinton Public Hospital Foundation has a request, I guess you'd call it. James,
I think this should be put in for,
in the budget discussion.
budget.
I would second that. I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Brock.
I'm really, really glad to see this because I think that a lot of North Huron families use Clinton services in preference to other hospitals that are available. And I think that in many respects, this council favors the Wingham Hospital to the exclusion of Clinton. So I'm glad to see this out.
Brock is saying. However, I do feel that we have an obligation that, you know, we've come to shared services conversation with Central Huron with very little success at this point. You know, this is just another example of stuff that is somewhat of a shared service. Like, yes, we have ratepayers that go to that hospital, but the fact of the matter is there's people in Clinton and in Central Huron that use the services of North Huron. So I think that's part of the deliberation that we'll have part during the budget, but I don't disagree with Councilor Vaughn. I think it's a good idea in principle. However, I think there's more conversations that need to be had with Central Huron on a shared services discussion. Because again, at the end of the day, we're all ratepayers, and I think we all need to make sure money's going to the appropriate place.
I know for a fact that former Deputy Reach and myself have attended the galas that they have, I believe, every other year, and contributed in their auctions and that kind of stuff, so that we definitely have had a position on this, even if it wasn't by council motion. And that I think it's something that I think the budget is the proper place to look at it, so that we'll go on. 9, council information. Bring anything forward that you want out of that, or use the suggested motion. The one thing that I would say, the 9.1 2016 AMO Annual Conference in Winnipeg, if councilors figure on going, the hotel bookings start January 16th. So you can think of that over the holidays, but make sure staff knows if you want a room in one of the hotels listed. Yeah, in Windsor. All right. It's been that kind of a day.
I knew what you meant. Order and file.
Yolanda seconds. All in favor? And 10 's correspondence, the same. Trevor?
I have a question. What does, I do have a question with regards to 10.1.3 on how that, the repeal of those sections. I understand what legally-ized it says about repealing sections of the Ontarians with Disabilities Act. How does that affect our planning for those issues that we have with regards to the government? How we put in our planning for that? I don't know which staff member wants to answer.
Tim, chief building official.
Okay.
No.
Barb has been working on it, but
Okay.
it goes through the clerk's department, so.
You want to report, explaining that a little better?
Yeah, I
What
just
the ramifications
what
for
the
North Huron?
ramifications are for North Huron and how that impacts our planning.
Do I have a seconder for that? Ray? All in favor? Carried. Okay,
Order read and filed now.
okay, Trevor and James. What? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to bylaws. Bylaw. Bylaw number 85, 2015, being a bylaw to adopt a municipal design standard for storm drain, stormwater management, and lot grading to regulate all new development and redevelopment projects for the township of North Huron. Read it first and second time, Ray and Bill. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the municipal design standards, to be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. James and Trevor, all in favor? Bylaw number 86, 2015, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 39, 2012, a bylaw to provide for the regulation and control of traffic on highways of the township of North Huron. Trevor?
First and second, please.
Okay, and Brock seconds. All in favor? Carried. And that same bylaw to be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Yolanda and James, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 87, 2015, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B and Schedule C of Bylaw 54, 2007, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the township of North Huron. Bill and James, for the first and second. All in favor? Carried. And that same bylaw to be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Brock and Ray, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 88, 2015, being a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control. In registered plan 451, being part of Block A on a street legally named Elm Street, Town of Wingham, in the Township of North Huron and the County of Huron.
I
Trevor,
have a question.
okay?
Can somebody please, in non-legal terms, tell me what this is trying to tell me?
Laura might be able to.
So the property is currently 3 townhouses on one piece of property. And we're going to temporarily, for 3 months, be able to rearrange the lot lines if they're going through the severance process to divide the townhouses into their own separate properties. So it removes the existing lot lines, and they can use a predetermined survey and rearrange them to create 3 new parcels.
So I'm catching up. So by doing this, it would save these going through the fee structure of getting an amendment. Is that what I'm basically we're boiling it down to?
Yes, because the dwellings are already attached, so there's already a common wall separating them, which would be the division between the new properties.
Bill moves. Yolanda seconds. Okay. All in favor? Okay, and to be read a third and final time, signed by the Regional Clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Brock and Bill? All in favor? Carried. Council reports and inquiries. Trevor.
Yeah, Reeve, I'd just like to actually, you had mentioned your Reeves report, but I want to actually make note of Gary Marie Lyle, the Salvation Army, the Columbus Center, and the North Huron Food Share. That is a huge amount of work that goes into that community dinner. And I think as ratepayers, we need to be very, very pleased that we're willing to support such a worthy cause in the community. It takes me back a little bit when I'm there to see some of the people that are ratepayers, and not even ratepayers in our community. It's all over Huron County that come to that. So we're really not just involving our ratepayers, but the entire county as well. So I think it's a job well done to them. I think it's kudos to us to support such a thing. And in second with that, I have had a conversation with Joyce at the North Huron Food Share, and she has provided an open invitation to council and senior management if they would so choose to have a tour and kind of look at what the North Huron Food Share, what it is, and all that stuff. So if council's wishing for that over the next after the new year, more than happy that Sharon or somebody can contact Joyce at the North Huron Food Share and set something up. But there is an open invitation. I think it's a worthy cause, and I think it's something we as counselors and sometimes us as people take for granted what we have at home. So I think it would be interesting for all of us to go and take a look at what they have to offer. The county, it's not just North Huron.
More than Huron County, North Huron Food Share takes care of a whole district at the north end, and they don't draw county lines on any map. It's people that need it, the ones that fit it. Anything else? Right.
I guess just a question, going back to the Wingham Town Theater, you said phase 3, just for clarification, but that phase 3, that's only got to do with the air conditioning anyway, right? Is that right?
Yeah, no, phase 3 is the screen and projector.
Okay.
And our recommendation was that both phase 1 and 2 be fully funded and implemented prior to opening the theater. So phase one being the fire code upgrades and phase two being the HVAC system, which is the air conditioning and so that's the recommendation that if phase three is not fully funded, I think we could still proceed with opening and enjoy more rentals, which was the original proposal.
Thank you. No, I've got no problem with the motion.
Councilors want to tell stories? Public gallery questions about things that we have talked about within the minutes. Right? Go ahead.
My question is about 0.8.1.1. It's the Clinton Public Hospital Foundation. You guys move that to a budget meeting. When are the budget meetings to begin?
Early January.
Early January? Thank you.
Laura?
Relating to bylaw 88, 2015 that was just passed, there's an updated procedure at the county level for that application. After approval at the local municipal level, instead of it having to go to the committee of the whole and approval for county council, it can be signed by the planning manager, which removes approximately 2 to 3 months time off the application. So we passed that to the official.
One strip of red tape removed.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Laura. There's 1 point for in camera and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. We'll put go in camera, Trevor and Bill. All in favor?